Hello everyone, welcome to day 2 of the module on delivery room management. Hope you are enjoying the sessions and discussions that follow the video sessions. Today we will discuss some other aspects of NRP, a little bit about Indian addendum, the modifications of NRP 2015 for India, a little bit about preterm care and few aspects of post-resuscitation care. May again request all of you to kindly participate actively in the discussions throughout the next 2 days. Thank you.
Hello everyone. In this presentation, we are going to see resuscitation of babies born preterm. The objectives are why babies born preterm are at higher risk of medical complications, the additional resources needed to prepare for a preterm birth, additional strategies to maintain the preterm baby's body temperature, how to assist ventilation when a preterm baby has difficulty breathing, additional consideration for oxygen management in a preterm baby, ways to decrease the chances of lung and brain injury in preterm babies, special precautions to take after the initial stabilization period. Preterm birth. When birth occurs before term, additional challenges make the transition to extrauterine life more difficult. The likelihood that a preterm newborn will need help making this transition is related to gestational age. Babies born at lower gestational age are more likely to require additional intervention because preterm newborns are also more vulnerable to injury from resuscitation procedures. It is important to find the correct balance between initiation resuscitation without delay and avoiding unnecessarily invasive procedures. The first minutes management may decrease the risk of both short and long-term complications in preterm babies. Why do babies born preterm have a higher risk of complications? They have thin skin, decreased subcutaneous fat, large surface area relative to body mass, and limited metabolic responses to cold lead to rapid heat loss. And they have weak chest muscles and flexible ribs. They decrease the efficiency of spontaneous breathing efforts. They have immature lungs that lack surfactant. They are more difficult to ventilate and are at greater risk of injury from positive pressure ventilation. They have very immature tissues. They are more easily damaged by oxygens. So, infection of amniotic fluid and placenta, that is chorioamnionitis, may initiate preterm labor, and the baby's immature immune system increases the risk of developing severe infections such as pneumonia, sepsis, and meningitis. A smaller blood volume increases the risk of hypovolemia from blood loss. Immature blood vessels in the brain cannot adjust to rapid changes in blood flow, which may cause bleeding or damage from the insufficient blood supply. Limited metabolic reserves and immature compensatory mechanisms increase the risk of hypoglycemia after birth. What additional resources do you need for resuscitating a preterm newborn? Additional trained person, including some skilled at intubation, and an additional strategy to maintain baby's temperature. How to maintain preterm baby's body temperature? To maintain baby's body temperature, increase delivery room temperature at least to 25 to 26 degrees Celsius. And we have to use servo controlled radiant warmer with the temperature sensor. It should be preheated. And use warming pad, place hat on the head, and prepare polyethylene bag for babies less than 32 weeks of gestation. The first picture showing placing the baby inside the polythene bag. to prevent heat loss to maintain the body's temperature. In second picture, place a hat over the head, baby's head, to maintain the body temperature.
Before the delivery, use scissors to make an opening in the closed end of the bag sufficiently large for the baby's head. Then, after the baby has been placed in the bag with her head brought through the cut end and the baby has been appropriately resuscitated, the Ziploc end can be closed to minimize further evaporative heat loss.
How do you keep the preterm newborn warm? Preterm newborn have a higher risk of developing hypothermia and its complication from cold stress. While drying with the warm towel, skin to skin contact, and early breastfeeding may be sufficient to maintain normal temperature for term babies and some vigorous late preterm newborns. Additional measures are required for premature newborns and those requiring assistance after birth. When preterm birth is expected, anticipate that temperature regulation will be challenging and prepare for it. The additional equipments needed are compressed air, oxygen blender to blend air and oxygen, and pulse oximeter to see saturation.
High pressure hoses are connected from the oxygen and air sources to the blender, which has a dial that can be adjusted from 21% to 100%. An adjustable flow meter is then connected to the blender so that flows of 0 to 20 liters per minute of the desired oxygen concentration can be delivered directly to the baby or to the positive pressure delivery device.
The additional equipments are ECG monitor with 3 chest leads, T-piece resuscitator, preterm sized mask, and size 0 laryngoscope for preterm babies and 000 for extreme preterm babies, and surfactant and pre-warmed transport incubator to transport the baby to NICU after initial stabilization. Maintain the baby's axillary temperature between 36.5 degrees Celsius to 37.5 degrees Celsius. The preterm babies are more prone for hyperoxic and reperfusion injury. They may be more significant in preterm babies. In preterm babies, we have to use oxygen blender, air source, and pulse oximeter. They are recommended for babies born less than 35 weeks of gestation. Next, we move on to how do you assist ventilation? Preterm babies have immature lungs that may be difficult to ventilate and are more susceptible to injury from positive pressure ventilation. You follow the same criteria for initiating positive pressure ventilation with the term babies, that is, apnea, gasping, or heart rate less than 100 beats per minute within 60 seconds of birth, despite the initial steps. These are the indication for positive pressure ventilation. And consider using CPAP if the baby is breathing spontaneously and the heart rate more than 100 beats per minute. CPAP may be considered where the baby is having labored respiration, persistent cyanosis, or low oxygen saturation. If the baby is breathing spontaneously, consider using CPAP rather than intubating. And if positive pressure ventilation is required, use the lowest inflation pressure necessary to achieve and maintain the heart rate greater than 100 beats per minute. If positive pressure ventilation is required, it is preferable to use a device that can provide PEEP, that is T-piece resuscitator. And consider administering surfactant if the baby requires intubation for respiratory distress or the baby is very extremely preterm. These are the targeted preductal saturation after birth. It is same as down baby, but more than 95% of saturation is harm to the preterm baby. So the target is 90 to 95% after 10 minutes of life. So connect the blender to oxygen and air source to blend the oxygen and air to give the required oxygen FiO2 from 21 to 100%. Attach pulse oximeter to the baby's right upper arm to monitor the preductal saturation to achieve the target saturation. And need reliable oximeter signal and adjust the oxygen concentration to achieve desired saturation, that is 90 to 95% of saturation. What can you do to decrease the chances of neurological injury in preterm newborns? Handle the baby gently. While this may seem obvious, this aspect of care may be forgotten when members of restoration team are trying to perform many steps quickly. Do not position the baby's leg higher than the head, that is Trendelenburg position. Avoid delivering excessive pressure during positive pressure ventilation or CPAP. Use pulse oximeter and blood gases to monitor and adjust ventilation and oxygen concentration. Do not rapidly infuse intravenous fluids. If volume expansion is needed, infuse the fluid slowly over at least 5 to 10 minutes. Hypertonic intravenous solution should be avoided or given very slowly. What special precautions should be taken after initial stabilization period? Monitor the baby's temperature. Maintain baby's body temperature between 36.5 degrees Celsius and 37.5 degrees Celsius. Monitor blood glucose. Monitor the baby for apnea and bradycardia. Monitor and control oxygenation and ventilation. Consider delaying feeding if perinatal compromise was significant. Increase your suspicion of infection and give appropriate antibiotic to control infection. Delayed cord clamping. Should delayed cord clamping be considered for preterm newborns? Yes. Among preterm newborns, delayed cord clamping has been associated with improved cardiovascular stability, increased blood pressure, decreased need for blood transfusion, decreased incidence of ventricular hemorrhage, and necrotizing enterocolitis. So, in vigorous preterm, at least 30 to 60 seconds of delayed cord clamping should be done. If the placental circulation is not intact, such as after placental abruption, bleeding placenta previa, bleeding vasa previa, or cord avulsion, the cord should be clamped immediately after birth. Thank you. Hello everyone. In this presentation, we are going to see NRP addendum. It was proposed changes according to Indian condition in textbook of NRP 7th edition by AAP. By consultative meet jointly held by IAP and NNF on 21st July 2012 at Kurgan, and it was modified on 8th January 2017 at New Delhi. Birth of newborn is a potential medical emergency. All babies need assessment for resuscitation at birth. The need for resuscitation at birth cannot always be anticipated. All equipment should be regularly checked to ensure they are available in various sizes and are functional. Standard precautions. All resuscitation should be conducted under strict asepsis. All resuscitation apparatus should be clean and sterile and where indicated disposable. Suction catheter, mucus extractor, umbilical catheter, syringes, needles, endotracheal tubes, feeding tubes should be single-use, sterile, and disposable. Personnel should wear gloves and take appropriate aseptic measure during procedures that are likely to expose them to the droplets of blood or other body fluids. The following items are considered desirable in the birth setting and should be used if available at every birth. First one is oxygen blender to mix oxygen and compressed air with the flow meter. Oxygen blender is needed to titrate an oxygen concentration between 21% to 100%. It is advocated that exact oxygen concentration be delivered during resuscitation, especially in preterm babies. It is desirable that oxygen blender be used during resuscitation of newborns if facility exists. Next one is the pulse oximeter for neonate use and oximeter probe. Pulse oximeter use if facility exists is desirable. Conventional pulse oximeter takes longer time, at least 2 minutes, to show the response after the birth. Pulse oximeter working on a signal extraction technology that is designed to reduce movement artifact with a neonatal probe is ideal for delivery room resuscitation. The third one is CPAP delivery device. The fourth one pressure manometer. And last one is use of polyethylene bag or polyethylene sheet. May be desirable for preterm infants below 32 weeks of gestation. The polythene bag should be appropriate size, food or medical grade, and it should be heat resistant. The following items are considered not necessary for resuscitation. First one is laryngeal mask airway, that is LMA, and ETCO2 device. Next, we move on to level of post-resuscitation care. There are three levels of care. The one is routine care, second one is observational care, third one is post-resuscitation care. The observational care. Babies who requiring brief positive pressure ventilation, that is less than 1 minute of positive pressure ventilation, will will un- will be under observational care with mother. Initial steps stimulation. Now, all babies at the time of birth should be assessed for need for resuscitation. This is judged by asking only one question: is the baby's breathing or crying? The need for resuscitation in a baby is determined by assessing the breathing by observing the baby's chest movements. Breathing is adequate if a baby is vigorously crying or has good regular chest movements with no pauses or chest indrawing with associated good muscle tone. Gasping or labored breathing should not be mistaken for normal breathing. The only recommended stimulation is rubbing of back, trunk, or soles. No more flicking of soles. So changes in this step is, instead of asking term, tone, breathing, or crying, instead of three questions, we are asking only one question: whether the baby is breathing or crying. And assessment should be done by heart rate, whether heart rate is more than 100 or less than 100 in initial steps, and use pulse oximeter if it is available. Assessment of positive pressure ventilation. The assessment of positive pressure ventilation should be done by assessing the heart rate. Raising heart rate within 15 seconds of positive pressure ventilation is the adequacy of positive pressure ventilation. If heart rate is not rising, then check if chest is moving. If heart rate is not rising and chest is not moving, then do ventilation corrective steps, that is MR SOPA. So always start positive pressure ventilation with the room air for term babies, and positive pressure ventilation with the 21 to 30 percentage of FiO2 for babies born less than 35 weeks of gestation. So heart rate should be assessed by auscultation. No more routine tracheal aspiration of meconium in case of non-vigorous meconium strain like babies. Intubation. For intubation, we are not using 4-size tube anymore. We are using only 2.5, 3 and 3.5 size endotracheal tubes for intubation. And how depth we have to keep the endotracheal tube in mouth? We are using NTL, that is nasotracheal length, the distance between the nasal septum, middle of the nose, and to the tragus of the ear, plus 1 centimeter. This is the length to be kept inside the trachea. In chest compression, we are using only 2 thumb techniques. We are no more using 2-finger technique. And we have to give adequate chest compression for at least 6 seconds before the assessment. And medication we are using, the available adrenaline dose is 1000. To make 1 in 10,000 dilution, mix 1 ml of adrenaline with 9 ml of normal saline to make 1:10,000 dilution. Special circumstance. Pneumothorax. Trans elimination using a core-like source may be used for diagnosing pneumothorax bedside if facility exists. In the absence of core-like source, one could insert an intracath attached to a 3-way stop block with a syringe in the second intercostal space on the side suspected to have pneumothorax to drain the accumulated air. Therapeutic hypothermia. Currently, therapeutic hypothermia is not a standard care of in India. However, if the expertise and facility exists for providing therapeutic hypothermia, it should be considered experimental and such a therapy should be used but only after taking appropriate informed consent from the parents as per protocol used for research intervention. Resuscitation of babies outside hospital or home delivery. Special attention should be paid to maintaining normal temperature of the babies who deliver outside hospital setting. Temperature controls measures should include closing the windows in the delivery room to prevent drought, using dry, warm cloth to receive and wrap the baby, and encouraging skin-to-skin contact in delivery room. Resuscitation, if required, can also be performed keeping baby on mother's abdomen. If post-resuscitation assessment necessitates transfer to an appropriate facility, care must be taken to ensure temperature maintenance during transport. In stable babies, skin-to-skin contact during transport could help maintain infant's temperature during transport. So, resuscitation of preterm babies. The three things should be kept in your mind. Thermoregulation, delayed cord clamping, and whether to start resuscitation or not. Thermoregulation. Preterm or low birth weight babies are not required. Resuscitation at birth can be kept on mother's chest in skin-to-skin contact for thermoregulation till they transfer to an appropriate care area. Delayed cord clamping for more than 1 minute is safe procedure in preterm and low birth weight babies not requiring resuscitation at birth and has no apparent adverse effect on the infants. It appears to be aid in maintaining adequacy of circulation during the first days of life and also appears to be reduce the need for blood transfusion among other observed benefits. To resuscitate or not. The decision of when not to resuscitate or how much to resuscitate is complex. Such decisions are best made with understanding of the relevant neonatal data and ethical issues, including the rights of the newborn and the parents. The ideal situation is one where the healthcare team and the family come together and make the best possible decision for all involved. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Mohammed Asif, Senior Consultant, the Department of Neonatology, Srihat, Chennai. Today's topic, this session's topic is post-resuscitation care. So, baby delivered, resuscitation done, and the baby is right now vitally stable. Then how are you going to manage in the ICU? Okay, post-resuscitation care preferably should be given in the ICU only. So the objectives of the topic is, so what has to be done after neonatal resuscitation? So how are you going to manage after neonatal resuscitation, and the medical conditions that may occur following neonatal resuscitation has to be looked for. Systematically, it has to be looked for. The medical conditions that may occur following a resuscitation. Okay, that has to be addressed, and the management. So how are you going to manage those medical conditions has to be kept in mind always, and the things and the medications, equipments, whatever has to be kept ready. Management considerations following neonatal resuscitation. Although I told you already, the medications, the equipments, or whatever has to be kept ready. The role of the therapeutic hypothermia. Say the baby is seems to be having a perinatal depression. Okay, then perinatal asphyxia. Probably the baby after stabilization can be taken for a therapeutic hypothermia. So babies who required supplemental oxygen during resuscitation or a positive pressure ventilation more than 1 minute after delivery will need closer assessments. They may develop problems associated with abnormal transitions, neonatal transitions, and should be evaluated frequently, periodically during the immediate neonatal period. They often require ongoing respirator support, and most of the times they will be stable, but still they may require respirator support such as supplemental oxygen, a positive pressure ventilation, continuous positive airway pressure, CPAP support, or sometimes may get intubated for a mechanical ventilation. Many will require admissions to a nursery environment where a continuous cardiorespiratory monitoring is available, and vital signs has to be recorded periodically and frequently. Sometimes, if there is no necessary equipments available, sometimes it may need a transfer to a neonatal intensive care unit also. So that one also you have to keep it in mind after stabilizing the baby. When shifting the baby by ambulance or whatever, something like that, we have to arrange once the resuscitation is over. If a newborn requires post-resuscitation care in a location outside the mother's, say the mother is not here nearby, the baby is in ICU and the mother is in the postnatal ward or in the labor room, whenever mother is ready to come and see the baby, we have to encourage parents to come and see the baby. They have to come and test the baby also, so that the baby as well as the mother will have a bondage. So that has to be always encouraged. The period of time needed for post-resuscitation care. So baby stabilized, now he has come to ICU, and the period of time needed for post-resuscitation care, that is observation care in ICU, depends upon the conditions associated with the baby. Maybe it's a preterm baby, it may be a CDS baby, it may be a perinatal asphyxiated baby. So it depends upon the condition, the time in ICU varies. Progress towards normal transition. The progression towards normal transition also varies. Some babies gets quicker transition, some babies the transition may be delayed. In the presence of identifiable other risk factors. I told you already, the possibility of hypoglycemia, hypothermia, all these things has to be taken care of, and accordingly we have to increase the observation period in NICU, depending upon the risk factors associated. So we'll go one by one the systematically the post-resuscitation care management. Neurological, the signs we need to look for. Neurologically, the baby is having some apneic episodes, seizures, or the baby seems to be very irritable, incessant cry, tone is not good, poor tone or hypertonia, whatever. There is altered sensorium or altered neurological examinations. The baby is not feeding well. There is a poor feeding or poor kind of lethargy. All these things are should be looked for if you feel there is a neurological abnormality. And the management considerations. How are you going to manage all these neurological symptoms? So all these things has to be discussed in the unit and has to be taken care of. So we have to monitor for apneas and support ventilation if the baby needs ventilation. Baby is not having a very good respiratory efforts, probably baby has to be ventilated also. And monitor the glucose and electrolytes as advised by the unit. Avoid hypothermia. Consider anticonvulsants. If the baby is showing seizures, then probably we have to consider giving a anticonvulsant therapy also. And consider therapeutic hypothermia. If you feel the baby is having some kind of HIV kind of picture, clinical picture, hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy kind of picture, the baby may be put on therapeutic hypothermia. And consider delayed initiation of feeds. So feeding can be delayed and we can start using IV fluids. And respiratory wise, the signs we need to look for in the post-resuscitation care is the baby can have tachypnea, the baby can have grunting, retractions, some nasal flaring, oxygen saturation may be bit in the lower side, say like less than 85 or whatever. The babies can have a pneumothorax. All these things has to be taken care of in the observation period in NICU for the post-resuscitation care babies. So how are you going to manage all this? Maintain adequate oxygenation and ventilation. If the baby needs oxygenation, we have to be very thorough, very liberal in giving oxygenation to maintain the saturation. And if the baby is so distressed, based on the scoring, we can go for a ventilation support. Avoid unnecessary suctioning. Cluster care to allow periods of rest. Consider antibiotics. If we feel there is a possibility of infection, we can go for an antibiotic also, all with septic screening. Consider X-rays and blood gases. And based on that, we can come to a conclusion whether the baby needs any other surfactant therapy or whatever. Consider surfactant therapy. If the baby is if the baby seems to be premature, we can consider even giving a surfactant as the earliest possible time. Consider delayed initiation of feeding. So the feeding can be delayed and you can use IV fluids instead until the baby gets ready for feeding. Cardiovascular systems. You always look at the hypotension, tachycardia, metabolic acidosis. Okay, if you feel the baby is not having this CFT, capillary filling time, seems very less, probably we can act accordingly. We have to give immediate boluses or whatever, something like that. And tachycardia. Just look at the heart rate. If it is brady or a tachy, whatever, accordingly you have to act. And acidosis, based on the ABC, if you feel that acidosis, there is a lactate building up, lactic acidosis or metabolic acidosis building up, we have to accordingly give some respiratory support or pick-up support. Monitor blood pressure and heart rate. The management considerations are here. You always continuously monitor the blood pressures and heart rate. And based on that, we can take a decision. Consider volume replacement if the baby is hypovolemic or inotropic support if the baby is really in having a building up of metabolic acidosis. The renal parameters. Post-resuscitation babies can have a decreased urine output. They can have edema, maybe the same day or the next day. Electrolyte abnormalities can happen. So always all these things has to be looked for before shifting the baby to the wards. So what is the management considerations here? Monitor the urine output. So monitor the urine output, monitor the serum electrolytes and other parameters, other renal parameters. Monitor the weight and fluids. You try to be, you restrict your fluids if the baby is having decreased urine output. Gastrointestinal parameters. The signs to look for. You have to always look at the feeding pattern. Feeding intolerance. Was there any feeding intolerance? Was there any vomiting, nauseating feel to the baby? Abdominal distension was there or not? Abnormal liver functions. Abnormal LFTs. Abnormal LFT, how the LFT is. And gastrointestinal bleeding. So all these signs we need to look at in a post-resuscitation baby. So how are you going to manage it? Consider if any abnormality, feeding intolerance was there, abdominal distension was there, you consider taking an abdominal X-ray and get an opinion, surgeon's opinion if needed. Consider delaying the feeding. Oral feeding can be delayed, and we can start with intravenous fluids based on the baby's weight or baby's conditions. Consider parental nutrition. If the baby may need to be kept nil-pill oral for a longer time, consider starting a parental nutrition also. Endocrine metabolic criteria. Metabolic acidosis. I told you already, metabolic acidosis and hypoglycemias, low sugars, hypocalcemias, hyponatremias, and hyperkalemias. These are the common entities in a post-resuscitation baby. All these things has to be looked for and accordingly has to be corrected also. So monitor the blood glucose periodically depending upon the unit protocol, and monitor serum electrolytes as indicated by the consultants, and we can treat accordingly also. And consider intravenous fluids. What type of fluids has to be given, all these things can be decided based on the unit protocol and to be continued. And replace electrolytes. Whenever there is a low sugar or low calcium or low sodium, something can be replaced according to the protocol. Hematological signs: anemia, thrombocytopenia, delayed clotting abnormalities, coagulation problems, pallor, bruising, petechiae. All these things can be taken care of in the post-resuscitation care in the ICU. So monitor the hematocrit, monitor the platelet count, coagulation profile has to be seen once if needed, and based on that we can decide on the management. Whether to give transfusions, whether to give platelet, or whether to give FFP, all these things can be decided based on the parameters you get from the lab. And hypothermia. So don't forget to maintain the euthermic condition in the baby in the post-resuscitation. It should not be either hyper or hypothermic. So maintain euthermia. So and bathing can be delayed in a post-resuscitation baby. So coming to the key points in a post-resuscitation baby, what are the things we always should keep it in mind? A baby who requires resuscitation must have close monitoring of the vitals. Heart rate, respiratory rate, saturations, all these things has to be closely monitored, and frequent assessment of the respiratory efforts. Has to be there. It should be recorded also. The oxygenation need, saturations, all these things has to be taken care of. Blood pressure, blood glucose, electrolytes, urine output, the neurological status has to be taken care of and periodically monitored also. And temperature. Finally, the temperature, but not the least, temperature has to be recorded and should be maintained in the normal range. Be careful to avoid overheating the baby during the resuscitation period. If indicated, that is, if the baby seems to be having a perinatal depression kind of thing, HAE kind of neurological abnormality, probably baby can be kept for therapeutic hypothermia. And then therapeutic hypothermia, that protocol has to be followed for as per the unit protocol. And these are some of the, to sum up, these are some of the key behavioral skills of the neonatal team. They should know they should know their environment, how they are working, where they are working. So what is the environment, what are the availabilities available? All these things has to be kept in mind. Use all available informations. Don't think any information is irrelevant. You always use whatever information is given to you during resuscitations. Anticipate and plan. Say, anticipate something. Say the baby is preterm. The possibility of hypothermia is there. Possibility of infection is there. So anticipate some kind of thing and accordingly plan the resuscitation and post-resuscitation plan. Clearly identify a team leader. Communicate effectively. The communication is much important, especially when we are panic, we will lose communication. This one kind of thing. So it should be communication should be very effective, and it should be very clear also, and delegate the jobs optimally according to their ability. Allocate attentions wisely. So allocate the allocate the jobs properly. Use available sources. If you have CPAP, use it if the baby needs. If you have a TP resuscitator, use it whenever it is needed. So use available resources, monitors, cardiac monitors, EEG, everything, whatever is available, try to use it in situations needed. Call for additional help. Don't hesitate to call for additional help whenever it is needed. It may affect the baby's outcome. So call for additional help whenever there is a need for it. And maintain professional behavior. It should be always be there in your mind to maintain the professional behavior throughout the resuscitation process and even afterwards. Thank you all. Thank you so much.